Earlier this year, I released a video, something to the effect of the real problem with Drake. And in that video, I tried to approach it from the angle of his place in hip-hop culture. It was pretty strident, but it was also, I think, somewhat conciliatory. That is not what I am doing now. This, as you can hopefully tell from the title, I'm going to be much more severe with Drake and point out a thing that he's doing that is worse than what he is doing to hip-hop. It is what he is doing to our culture and our society, and something he should never be forgiven for. Something much worse than just being a bad rapper or a culture vulture. And listen, I have spent 6 hours today, 8 hours today, watching Drake's gambling streams. So it's a little bit hard for me to organize my thoughts. My brain is basically just poutine at this point. I've watched so much of this stuff. But I'm going to try to sort of like separate it into basic ideas. So the first basic idea I want to get across is that online gambling is a form of class warfare. The second is that Drake's support for online gambling is perhaps the most socially irresponsible and consequential action in the history of popular music. Worse than whatever Ye is saying, worse than Kid Rock shooting Bud Light cans, worse than Elvis and James Brown palling around with Nixon, worse than whatever Young Thug is accused of, and worse than whatever it was that Biggie said he did. Okay? The third thing is that, in fact, I don't even know if I'm going to get into this, but greed at this level sadly reflects our cultural values, so perhaps we deserve to have such an odious person promoting such an odious product. The fourth thing is that Drake's support for online gambling is and has become a part of the larger manosphere ecosystem, where young men are being grifted or being stolen from in the name of billionaires. And finally, I'm just going to dunk on a whole bunch of streams and point out a bunch of funny, goofy stuff that maybe you haven't even heard. Like did you know in the Adin Ross stream that he called himself John Stockton? And then, anyways, that's the kind of stuff I'm going to get to. So thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor, who is going to end this year with an anti-Drake video. Listen, I am always positive. My next video is going to be on the amazing new album from Rap Ferreira, Outstanding Understanding. If you sit there and kind of say, you know, Sky, you're doing too much of this commentary, too much negativity stuff, you can tell me that, but tell me that in the comments of the Rap Ferreira video, okay? Because that is going to be awesome. But let's get into my first point. And if you hear some sounds in the background, that's because it's just after dinner time right now. It's before I put my kids to bed. And I got this new setup. The Dr. and Mrs. got this new setup. How good does this camera look, right? So along with that will come some ambient sounds of babies crying. So first of all, let's go into this concept of online gambling as class warfare. Now, I mentioned this to the Dr. and Mrs., to my wife, and she's like, well, no, you can't say that. And I was like, well, why can't I say that? But because class warfare has a meaning, and that meaning is the lower classes going against the upper classes. And that is true, and I am sincerely inviting you to help me find a better term, but I can't think of a better term, because I really see it as warfare on the lower and middle and working classes by the ultra-rich. That's how I see online gambling. That's how I see trickle-down economics. That's how I see low taxes for the top brackets. That's how I see no health care. This war on people who do not already have a lot of money has been going on for a long time, and online gambling is its newest form, and Drake is its shiniest, happiest, smilingest, coolest, most successful face. Now listen, gambling itself, I don't like, okay? I think it's a problem, but it used to be a localized problem. It was localized in Las Vegas, or it was localized with organized crime. If you wanted to bet on a football game, you had to go to the barber shop and then go out to the phone booth and call your local bookie and have them come down and figure out if the Browns are going to beat the Bears. And all these sort of casinos, you know, people worked there. And organized crime, I'm not a fan of organized crime, but people were working. There were human beings with families who were trying to make a living for themselves. They were part of an ecosystem. This new Silicon Valley ecosystem just means that all the money, 99.9% of the money, funnels up to the top. And then the rest of the workers are all either erased by automation or are just underpaid. That's the model that we found. That's the model for Uber. That's the model for Facebook. That's the model for Google. That's the model for everything. Okay? And all these disruptions that are being put forth, you know, Stake, which is Drake's primary sponsor, is a disruptor in the gambling space, but just as a way to soak up all the money. And just going beyond that, what is the nature of this online gambling? It's taking addictive stuff and putting it on your phone. And why is it? Or on your computer, making it so that you can, in the comfort of your own home, just sit there and gamble away all of the money that you have earned. All the money that you should have, you are going to give away to some rich jerk somewhere. And they put it on your phone. They put it on your computer. How did they get the rights to do that? It used to be that was restricted. Well, they paid off officials. They paid off officials, and they've now made it. And you can look this up. This is true. In many states, when they say your first bet is free, do you know who's paying for that bet if you win? The government is. Meaning I pay taxes to help other people get addicted to gambling. And, you might be saying, well, Sky, the government has supported gambling for a long time. Of course it has. It's supported the lottery, which at the very least helps to pave roads and have after-school programs. Who does this help? Who does it help that some 26-year-old kid from Madison, Wisconsin loses $1,000 on a Green Bay Packers game? Who does that help? Who gets that $1,000? Is it the people of Wisconsin? Is it some bookie? No, it's just the people at the top of the top of the top of the top. I think we need to see this in the same context that we saw the opioid crisis. And listen, I'm not the only person talking about this, but we all need to be talking about this. If you have a platform, you need to be talking about this because this is happening right now. When the opioid deaths went up, it was when the pharmacy companies were given more reign to do what they wanted to do. And that ended up being kind of a class war as well. When you see Drake sponsoring Steak, you should imagine him as being an OxyContin sponsor in 2013. This is opioids. This is an addictive product. This is a destructive product that is available at your phone and at your fingertips. Should I choose, I could, right now, gamble my house on the computer that I'm recording this on. It's just so easy. And it's all this dopamine for the dopamine doped out. And the more desperate people feel, the more they feel that the economy is not working for them, the more they feel that the world has left them behind, the more they feel that we'll never get a leg up, we'll never get a raise, we'll never have a cost of living adjustment, because they probably won't, because all the unions have been destroyed by the same people who are letting all the gambling go everywhere. When you feel at that super low point, that's the point where you go, I might win. I might be able to win. So how about all these rich people just coming on here and telling me that I can do it? So why not me? Now, Drake's support for online gambling, why is it so irresponsible? Well, I think the problem is that it's insidious. It's so insidious because, when I said, okay, a crack dealer is a terrible person who destroys his neighborhood, but he's acting out of need, or she is acting out of need, not purely out of greed. So many people are getting hurt right now, and what Drake is doing is he is normalizing it. He is normalizing it for the entire country, for the entire world, by being one of the most popular, perhaps the most popular musician in the world. Sorry, Kendrick, I don't think you actually completely annihilated him. And it's just being normalized. And it's being advertised to children constantly. Drake is working with the streamers who advertise to children, and he is advertising to children. They are all advertising to children and normalizing this behavior so that when those children over there, the child over there who's just walking, who just said, hi, Poppy, that kid, when that kid grows up, it will be normal for her classmates to have gambled on sports, to have been to an online casino, to have watched hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content of people just gambling on casinos. This is the world that we are giving them, and we are letting it happen, and we are trying to say that we need to boycott people for saying a bad word. That's true. Maybe we should, but maybe we should take the big problems first and completely boycott Drake, completely take him out, completely take out any of the people who are advertising for this stuff because they're trying to hurt us. Tom Brady, my hero. We're the same age. I'm from Boston. Go to hell. Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, go to hell. Both the Manning brothers. Well, I want you to go to hell anyways because I'm a Patriots fan. But you guys go to hell too. Anybody you see out there who's promoting this online game, Kendrick Lamar, go to hell. You're working for the NFL. NFL's working with the gambling companies, okay? Everybody can go to hell because we are signing ourselves up for ruin. We are smiling and laughing along as we encourage this addictive behavior that targets the economically vulnerable and drains it. It is a drain. These are vampires on our society, okay? The people who run Stake are vampires. Okay, they've got their teeth in the neck of the people, and they promise easy money, and they just keep sucking the money from the wallets because the house always wins. And listen, sometimes when I make this rant, someone will say, "Yeah, Sky, but I hit my parlays, so I don't have a problem with gambling." This is my deal to you, okay? If you're saying that online gambling has worked out for you, cool. You can put that in the comments, and then come back in 6 months, and you tell me if you're still up. Okay? You tell me. I used to always tell my kids the worst thing if you gamble is not losing a bet, it's winning a bet. Because if you win a bet, then you think that's how it works. That's not how it works. So let's talk about these giveaway streams, okay? I'm going to get to this stream with Adin Ross because it's fascinating, it's disturbing. But let's start with his stream from last year, because I've been thinking about like the biopic or biopic, I don't care which one, you can pronounce it either way, as far as I'm concerned, of Drake. And I think if you were to try to see a really good way of depicting who Drake is, I think Drake alone in front of a pool, just hitting buttons on a slot machine for hours and hours and hours while getting drunk by himself is the actual correct image. And that's what his live stream was last year, sponsored by Steak. He was down there in the Turks and Caicos, and he was giving a shout out to the guy who kept bringing him drinks, who was a native Turks and Caicos inhabitant. He's not a colonizer, he's a colleague. Just sad and drunk at the pool with a shisha pipe. Constantly the image of all these online streamers is drinking and smoking or vaping and slots. It's constant consumption, constant addiction, emptiness everywhere. And it sucks because those are the values. Those are the values that we have, but they don't have to be. We can have better values. And what did he say in that stream? Well, he talked all about Anita Max Wynn, and that's his funny little fun character. That's why I call him Anita Steak Graham. That's what I think we should call him from now on. And first of all, what is this weird Anita Max Wynn voice that he does? I'm not going to do it because as far as I can tell, it's a stereotypical voice of some ethnicity that I don't feel comfortable stereotyping. And I don't think he should feel comfortable either. But okay. And then that's what he named his upcoming tour. So that's interesting, So Kendrick is going to be playing the Super Bowl, and at the same time, Drake is going to be performing in Australia. Why? Why is he going to be doing a tour in Australia? Is that random? Is it random and he's going to be in Australia? Well, let's get there. And when you watch these streams with him, he's always talking to Eddy. It's so funny, Eddy, man, you got to help me out. Eddy, hook me up. Oh, Eddy, you're screwing me. Because Eddie Craven is the billionaire owner of Steak, man. He's just funny. Drake and Eddy are just buddies, Lucian Grange is not Drake's baby daddy. Eddie Craven is. That's where the money comes from. That's who he serves. Drake's got to serve somebody, and it's not Universal Music Group. It's Stake.com. And Eddy is the billionaire owner. And whenever he talks to Eddy, it seems relatable, It's like there's not some kind of random computer program going on here that is perfectly designed to hit your dopamine, to make sure that you win enough that you keep gambling, but not that you win enough that you ever make money, because the house always wins. You always lose when you gamble. Always, always, always. It is always just throwing away money. But when he talks about Eddy, it's like a fun thing. It's like he cares, Eddy. Hey, Eddy. Eddy's a vampire. Eddy's just sucking money from everybody, but it's just some fun thing that he gets to talk about. Is Eddy Australian? Jesus Christ, he is. So what's the deal? What's the deal with Drake playing in Australia? Is it because Eddie Craven is from Australia and Stake.com is from Australia? Maybe. It gets more complicated by the fact that actually Stake.com is not legal in Australia. So I don't know. Is this a part of a lobbying effort? I don't mean to be a tin hat guy right now, but I'm telling you, you watch out. Professor Sky promised there is some horse hockey going on here. Why is Drake playing in Australia, the home of Stake.com? Why is he naming the tour after his gambling addiction? Why is it Australia, which is, by the way, the most profitable gambling market in the world, or at least per capita, because it is the place where the most people gamble. 72% of Australians have gambled in the last year. I said 72%. I said 72%, 80% of men, 60% of women. Holy cow, they have addiction problems there. They have gambling problems there. But you can't do casino stuff there. You can bet on sports online. Anyways, I don't know what's going on there. But it's pretty wild that that's where he's choosing to go. So he's doing this stream now with Adin Ross, or he just did a stream with Adin Ross. Let's talk a little bit about Adin Ross a little bit. You probably, if you didn't know who he was before, you saw him interviewing Trump, and he's just, it's just so funny. It's so fun that we have all these random white dudes from absolutely nowhere who have a brain just full of packing peanuts, just nothing there, no education, no curiosity, nothing but the bag, just nothing. Packing peanuts and the bag, that's all they got in there. No curiosity, no culture, no civilization, no history, no language, no wit, no nothing. This whole series of just the most bland, boring, unimaginative people who have been given everything. And isn't it funny that they, of all people, get to interview the future president? What a weird, random thing that might happen. So there he is, and he's actively supporting to his millions of subscribers, even though he doesn't understand politics or follow politics at all or have any idea of what Trump's platform is, except that he's a funny guy, and he gives him a Tesla truck. If you hadn't seen that, he gives him a truck. He gives a billionaire a $100,000 truck, okay? That's what he does, because it's funny, because it's for the bag, and it was probably all paid for by Stake.com anyways, because he is also in the pocket of Stake.com. Sorry, Stake.clown. Because he's just a Trump clown. That's who he is. But he's for the children, because children love random people who are just not funny or interesting, but just who stream a lot. And just all the bright flashing colors of gambling, and they watch and they win. You know what he's wearing? He's wearing a t-shirt that says privileged dirtbag, because he knows it. He knows he comes from everything. And he's been given so much for having nothing. The thing is, his white mediocrity is not a bug. It's the feature. It's the point. Say what you will about the Paul brothers, but at least they were interesting. At least they worked hard to do things that were interesting. At least they had a look and an approach, and there was something about them that wasn't just person, wasn't just random dude. But that's not who Adin Ross is. And it's important that he is that way, because that's what draws everyone else in. That's why Trump had to use him, because he had to win over the young white male vote, which he absolutely did by appealing to all of their worst instincts, by appealing to Adin Ross. Meanwhile, on this whole stream, he says that rap is dead. Please see Rob Markman's video. Rob Markman was much more kind on this. He was not kind to this stream, but he was much more kind than I am. He has a great thing about the rap is dead question. Also, I guess we're just going to let it fly that this super hyper rich privileged white guy just throws on a black scent in the middle of this stream saying, how much you win? 700? Just hey, nothing matters anymore, because if you say it matters, then you're woke. Watch Justin Hunt to learn what woke means. And so it's fascinating because he's aggressively anti-hip-hop. So he says hip-hop is dead. And I think he said it in order to make Drake happy, because on Drake's last live stream with XQC, he said that hip-hop is weird right now. So I think he was just sucking up to Drake. But Drake said that hip-hop is going to shift. It's going to shift. And maybe it is, but it kind of already did, Drake, and it shifted away from you. He says free Tories and free Tory lanes. On a different stream, he says, don't we miss Andrew Tate? He just goes around, just all of this is what I'm talking about, the manosphere grift. There's all these people where there's this crisis of masculinity happening, right? That's primarily tied to economic insecurity and the inability to get a good paying job, because they're all being sucked away through the tech sphere, because we're having this increasing vampiric activity by the CEOs just taking all the money and making sure that the only jobs that we can possibly get involve wearing a diaper at a fulfillment center, okay? So when the men, I'm going to slip into my Jordan Peterson, when the men grow up in such a place, they end up that they don't have a sense of meaning, so they are drawn to hacks and grifters like me, okay? And they get super into UFC, and they get into monies and muscles, and the thing is, it's all about money. It's all about money. That's how you prove that you're a man. But if we live in an environment where it's increasingly difficult to make a middle-class living, then the gambling itself can substitute for that. So people like Adin Ross, who idolize people like Andrew Tate, who became famous for going to Romania to try to save Andrew Tate or whatever, can sit there and all this, just this average, bland nothingness can somehow serve its audience by helping them feel like a man by identifying with someone who they see as a big man. And Adin Ross, that's him. The reason that people love Adin Ross is the same reason that people voted for Donald Trump. They think it'll make them a man. Side note, it's accountability and responsibility and service to those that depend on you that makes you a man. Or a woman, an adult. I'll say that one more time. Accountability, responsibility, service to those who depend on you. That's it. The rest of it, don't worry about it. You don't need to drink martinis. You don't need to gamble. So, Adin Ross is streaming with Drake. Do you know what's my favorite line? Adin Ross said, he said this to Drake. I love that you're a streamer now, bro. You're too smart not to be a streamer. Class, I don't call you my class, but class, can we take a second to break down this sentence? You're too smart not to be a streamer? What do you mean? What? Streamers are smart? I think what he means is, you're so smart, you know that you can get in on this grift. That you can get in on seizing people's innate desire to not be in economic precarity and to have some kind of male role model they can look up to. You're too smart to miss out on this grift. But what interests me the most is the way these three words are used and discussed, okay? Brother, gangster, and bless. We're going to focus on those three words. First word is brother. You see, there's a whole thing that happens in this where there's this kind of really lazy engagement technique that I now notice anytime two of these absolute bland nothings. And listen, Drake does have a lot of talent as a songwriter, as Open Mike Eagle will tell us, although I agree with him in general, not necessarily exactly what he said, but he does have a lot of talent as a rapper and a performer. So Drake does have talent. He's not using it here, right? But in general, these nobody anybody's, right? Whenever you get two of them together, they always try to say stuff that's a little bit like, hey, put it in my mouth, pause. Like they just try to say something that's a little bit, as the homophobes in the comments will say, sus, okay? And that's all over the place. Like this whole thing is like a master class in like Drake trying to say stuff that he knows will get people to say like, low-key, kinda gay, FF2SS, you know what I'm saying? That's me imitating Gen Z slang. Like rate me out of 10. He calls Adin Ross, he says he looks like a baddie. He teaches him how to use oil. At some point, Drake uses the bathroom, and Adin Ross is like, I think you have a UTI. I'm just kidding. You're all good. You don't have a UTI. Trust me, I know. All right? Like, they know that's the way to get engagement. At a certain point, he says that we should stream all the time. And there's this amazing, beautiful sadness here because you get the sense they both want to be friends with each other, but they both know it's a purely transactional friendship. So they'll talk about like doing things together, but whenever they do, there's always their baby daddy right behind them who's going to tell them whether or not they can be friends, whether or not it's worth their time. So at some point, it says we should stream all the time, And he goes, Eddy, sign me up, because they're all friends with the head vampire. Eddy, sign me up. And then Drake says, it's not M's, it's B's that you need, meaning you have to pay them $1 billion, Isn't that just so great? Wouldn't it be awesome if those two guys linked up all the time for this kind of emptiness to advertise gambling to children? At a certain point, they watch a video, or one of the people who wins something is a black guy and a white guy, and this is the most fascinating moment. This is not really for me to talk about, but I'm going to mention it because maybe you didn't sit there and watch hours of this stuff like I have. I basically ruined my whole family's day. I mean, I was clearing out the garage, so I was just moving boxes. I was like throwing my back out while listening to Drake and Adin Ross all day. Have you smashed like bucket yet? Do you understand the dedication I have to this channel? So they make reference to a picture and there's a black guy and a white guy. And Adin Ross says, that's like us. And Drake says, yeah, you're the white guy. And then Adin Ross says, yeah, and you're the black guy. And Drake says, one second. Drake says, are you even ready for this? This is what Drake says. Thanks. That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me all year. So anyways, I'll let you just unpack that however much you like. Adin Ross said that Drake was black. And he said, that's the nicest thing anyone has said all year. Please, people who know more than I do about this, I don't know, anybody who's not like me, so white that I get sunburned in a thunderstorm, please tell me what that means to you. So there's one word, because the word is brother. So the thing they always land on is brother. They call each other brother all the time. And what a debased word when they can only be brothers if Eddy is signing a check. The other word is gangster. At one point they give a prize to a couple for doing a road trip. And Drake says this. I just want to say the sentence. I just want to say the sentence out loud so you get to have it in your head too, okay? Cross-country Canada trip to honor mom. That's the most Canadian gangster shit I've heard in my entire life. I'm going to say it again. Cross-country Canada trip to honor mom? That's the most Canadian gangster shit that I've heard in my entire life. I want to say it again. Cross-country Canada trip to honor mom? That's the most Canadian gangster shit I've heard in my life. And at some point he also says, shout out your gang, Adin. What does gang mean? But okay, let's get to the big word, blessings. Blessings, because that's what this whole stream is actually about. It's about blessings. What did Drake say? We're gonna bless tonight. Bless. Drake says, and I quote, I love blessing other human beings. And when he starts gambling, he says, I hope we get blessed. And this term of blessing, what does blessing mean? What is the definition of the term blessing? Well, it means God's favor and protection. That is what blessing means. And I just thought it might be fun. You know, people ask me all the time, what's the most important book I can have? Number one book is Autobiography of Malcolm X, as told to Alex Haley. Number two book is a good dictionary of etymology, okay? This is one of my favorite books. I reference this all the time. And I looked up the history of the word blessed. It's pretty interesting because it's an oddly profane thing to be saying, I hope I get blessed by winning a prize, or I'm going to bless you by giving you a G-Wagon. The etymology of it is as such: to consecrate by a religious rite, to make holy. From Proto-Germanic blodison, hallow with blood, mark with blood. Originally, a blood sprinkling on pagan altars. So that's what a blessing is. It's a blood sprinkling. Do you get it? A blood sprinkling. This is all about the giveaways. Listen to all the things that Drake and Adin Ross are giving away. A G-Wagon from Mercedes. $100,000 to an entrepreneur. $250,000 to two different people. They're going to pay some people's rent. They're going to give a trip to go see the Anita Max Win Tour in Australia. Because that's what Drake says. The purpose of the stream is to give back, to bless, to sprinkle some blood. That's what life's all about, says Drake. Well, let's get back to that blood and let's think about what this really is. These are vampires, people. These are vampires. Eddy is a vampire. The government serves up the necks of the people. The government lets him do it. And Eddy is sucking the blood from anybody who is unfortunate enough to go to his channel. Drake gets a huge cut. Matter of fact, he has 10,000 gallons of blood up there in the embassy, okay? It's taken from the necks of hapless, misinformed people. And in this stream, Eddy gave him 10 more quarts of blood to give out. Here you go. Because Drake isn't giving anything. Adin isn't giving anything. Steak.com is giving everything because this whole thing is an infomercial. Why did this happen? Is it because Steak cares? No. Here's a question for you. You might not know the answer to this. Why was television invented? Is it so that we could see The Wire or Sopranos or Breaking Bad or Simpsons or no? Do you know why TV was invented? It was invented for the advertising. It was first and foremost a means of distributing advertising. The reason they invented TV shows was to have something in between the advertisements. The purpose of giving away all of these prizes was for the gambling intermissions. Because before and after every segment of giveaways, Drake and Adin Ross modeled for the children and the adults watching how to gamble on stake.com. The fun, the excitement, the party, the drinking, the camaraderie, the excitement, the a max a winning. Stake doesn't care. They gave away money and it was worth every penny. They didn't lose a dime. Gillette doesn't care about men. Okay, your local supermarket doesn't care about food banks. They just take that money and they use it as a tax write-off. It's always about the gambling. It's about the gambling. So don't ever think that any dollar that is ever given to anybody from this company absolves them of anything. Because they give 1 quart and suck 1,000 gallons at the same time. Now, it's fascinating because in this whole thing, Drake actually starts off by saying, this is serious business. Don't cook yourself. So it's good. He's telling you to gamble wisely, He said that he got head tapped. Oh my God, Drake, you make it sound so much fun to lose a lot of money. Yeah. He says, it's important to walk. And it's interesting, He says hey, I might give away my house, because he might really lose his money. Because he is probably, let's be honest, he is probably an actual gambling addict. He probably does actually use the product that he is advertising. But let's remember some other thing about these streams. When XQC, when Adin Ross, when Drake are sponsored by stake.com and they gamble $6,000 on a roulette wheel, all $6,000 were given to them by stake before they wagered it. It is fun money. You remember when you're high school or whatever, your church or whatever would have a casino night and they would give you fake dollars and you could go and there was no real money? That's what it is, except it's all real money. It's all pretend. If you think Drake is gambling his money, then you must really be amazed to learn that Robert Downey Jr. does not actually fly around in a magical suit. All right? And you can tell because there's a moment in here where Adin Ross says that he wants to gamble $200K on something. And he says, I'll pay out of pocket. I'm just kidding. Because none of this is out of the pocket. Eminem did a lot to advertise the abuse of Vicodin. But he wasn't paid by Abbott Laboratories. Okay? Future is not sponsored by the Actavis company. But let's imagine that he was. And then it turns out that he's only ever had grape juice in his glass. That he's been selling this poison to people for years and years and years and not actually having to pay the price himself. The more people lose, the more people are thrown into poverty by gambling, the more money Stake makes, the more money Drake makes. And let's get back to these giveaways because there's too much. All I've done all day is move boxes and think about Drake and Adin Ross. Okay, Adin Ross does have a certain doughy charm. I will give him that. How did you win? How do you win? How do you win one of these giveaways? It's complicated. You submit your story, your sob story, okay? Cool. That's cool. People who really need it. And then once you have been selected as being worthy of a particular gift, you are chosen at random. What does this communicate to the people watching? Number one, you can't just give it randomly because some billionaire might win a $100,000 truck, and we don't want that. But also, it can't be purely based on merit, or else it wouldn't be gambling. It's still gambling. Every person who won deserved to win, but had to be lucky. You have to be lucky and you have to deserve it. It's creating a transitive relationship in your mind as a future gambler that if you are lucky and you deserve to win, then you will win. Every single person, from the mom whose kid just died, baby died a couple months ago, to the dude, to the woman whose boyfriend cheated on her. Each one of them wrote out their story and sent it. And the whole idea was this: it costs you nothing to try. You never know. You only live once. Them winning itself was a reinforcement of the ideology of Stake.com as it is. Not only that, but each of these people who applied for these winnings had to select a category. Much like whenever you go on Stake.com, you have to pick a different game. And then there's a real cue as to what he thinks. There's a bizarre moment where he talks about talking to Jeff Bezos. He says, I tried to talk to Jeff Bezos, but I didn't get an answer. I don't know. But I want to do a TV show. You know Anthony Bourdain? Keep Anthony Bourdain's name out of you. How much Anthony Bourdain do I have up there? My wife is a big fan of Anthony Bourdain because he's one of the great communicators of all time. One of the great humanitarian communicators of all time. And Drake says, I want to do what Anthony Bourdain does. Okay? Do you hear that baby crying? That baby is upset because Drake should not be mentioning Anthony Bourdain's name. He wants to do a TV show called God's Plan, where he does 10 episodes and he travels around talking to billionaires. But it's not about the yachts. He's not interested in the yachts. He's not interested in the luxury cars. He wants to go to put faces to names so that those billionaires can share all of the things they've given away. He wants a TV show in which billionaires get to wash their reputation and say how great they are. Let's focus on what is good about billionaires. And I'd like to remind you, there's not such a thing as a good billionaire. It does not exist. To have $1,000 million is an obscene fact. And there's no amount of giving that you can do that justifies that level of exploitation. As I say in my notes, what the actual fuck is Drake thinking with this show? What is the point? The point is he needs to prove that that level of greed and corruption can be justified. I'm thinking maybe I need to pause the recording because there is way too much noise there. Do I need to pause the recording? Do I need to pause the recording?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, this is a good Anthony Bourdain book. I don't remember what I was saying. I just went and gave a baby a bath. We got all sorts of stuff happening here. But in the end, what I think is important is the values thing, you know? We live in a society which really does value wealth for wealth's sake. And we really do look up, and it seems like our society is dividing into people who think that billionaires are a great idea and people who think they are not. And what's wild is the number of billionaires is still pretty low, but it's the people who are championing the billionaires that are the most conservative, that want change the least, because they really think it's very important that people are able to have $1,000 million. So Drake's dream of God's Plan. Again, the name of the show that he's proposing is called God's Plan. I'm going to take a wild guess and imagine the first person he'd go to visit would be probably Eddie Craven, and that would be why he's trying to do it, to help whitewash the name of somebody who's making the money off of the misery of so many people. I have some random thoughts here just from the stream. One, there was this whole couple who he gave a vacation to, and he encouraged them to have sex, to film it, and to send him the tape. Drake is gonna Drake. Adin called Drake the greatest artist in the world. They kept on saying W's in the chat, W's in the chat. And my favorite was for that aforementioned woman whose son had just died, 24 hours old. And Drake's like, W's in the chat for her. It's just very weird. Drake got really mad that someone called him Unk. But it's like, dude, you're almost 40. Listen, as someone who's called Unk, I feel you, Drake. It sucks because you like to think of yourself as the young guy. You want to be the nephew. You don't want to be the Unk. But at a certain point, you become the Unk. There's a weird thing where he makes fun of Adin Ross for choosing the wrong slot machine, and that's the thing I don't understand. Is it possible to be good at online gambling? I know it's possible to be good at online poker. I know it's possible to be good at, blackjack, but can you be good at a slot machine? I don't think so. Definitely some vague references towards Kendrick at times. A little swipe at Rick Ross. They called Adin Ross the healthy Ross. All the people they gave prizes to, like sometimes like it was people who really needed it, like the single mother who's trying to go to med school and has a couple of kids and all that stuff. Or it's like helping out a recent graduate of Carleton College who was a soccer player. you know he gave 25 extra $1,000 to a firefighter because he was such a hero. But like Drake, I mean, firefighters, it's good. I'm glad they have a good union, but they have a good union. In general, firefighters are not the people who you need to cut extra checks for. Anyways, what else is life about? That's what he says. That's what he says after he gives away a prize. What else is life about? And then he immediately starts gambling again. Drake told Adin Ross's mom that she can come and hang out in his house. It was kind of weird. You're always welcome at the embassy, Drake says. Say, Drake, I hear you like him old? I don't really know, but Adin Ross did say, you go with me, though. You'd have to go with me. There was a weird moment where Drake's mom was on the stream, and it seemed like Drake wanted her to read something, but that she wasn't up for it. I don't know if like she was inebriated or not, but Drake sort of changed the plan and made her say something else. And as someone who had to deal with inebriated parents quite often, that was the most I've ever felt Drake as relatable. Because he's like, yeah, she can't do this. Mom, just say random stuff. In this, it came out that there's a special song that Drake and his mother have that they, like, that's their special song for each other. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. That'll just be a mystery for all of us to have. Like, I wonder what that is. A real humanizing moment. And the song is Praise You by Fatboy Slim. She just said it. So for the rest of my life, whenever I hear that song, bad times and the good, I guess that's their song. It is weird. I'm getting real Penguin vibes. He refers to his mom saying, you look like a dime, which is just kind of weird. And then after his mom leaves, he looks into the camera and very seriously threatens Kendrick and the rest of the world by saying, and UMG saying, and you guys think you can finish me? That's my mom. Are you guys crazy? From one man to the biggest corporation in the world. What does it prove? Anyways, Kai Cenat comes on there, and as far as I could tell, Kai Cenat is a streamer who does not participate in all of this toxic garbage. So, I'm not an anti-streamer. Drake says, Kai, Speed, as in I show Speed, Adin, you three are redefining what people want to be. And I think that's true. I think that's the issue, is that the streamers are what kids want to be these days. They want to be influencers, which is why if we could just have them be like I Show Speed or like Kai Cenat, be young and stupid and aggravating and all that stuff, that's fine. But not have it be tied in to crippling debt and feeding an empty system of get poor quick schemes like gambling. You really are the John Stockton of this shit, says Adin Ross. To which Drake corrects him saying, no, you are the John Stockton of this shit. Because they're passing things back and forth, which means that Drake just called himself Karl Malone, which Kendrick didn't even understand the diss, because on this stream, check the tape, y'all. I'm sorry, if any of you want to like re-edit this and put the clips in, you go for it. You post it on your stream and get all the money you want from it. I don't have the time to do that. You hear what's going on in my house. He does say that. He calls the person who gives him something John Stockton. And there's this beautiful moment, where they hug each other. And Drake says to Adin, you're such a good guy. And they're such good guys because they gave away all of this stuff. And it's this great moment. And it's Christmas. And it's just great. But you're not great guys. You're vampires. You're giving blood. You're giving away blood that was sucked out of someone else. There's no good billionaires. There's no good gambling promoters. None of them. They gave $100,000 to an entrepreneur who makes videos on YouTube. I am just going to use my amazing powers of divination to say that that guy will be a steak-sponsored content creator within a year. If I am wrong, I will eat a steak on screen, okay? And I don't like steak. A weird bit where the woman wins a car and Drake asks her how old she is. Say Drake. Adin says she looks like my sister, and then they go out on a date. And when they have the final moment, the final crowning moment of the whole thing. They tag the final gift, the $250,000 to the woman who needs it most, with Anita Max Wien, which makes it very clear that when Drake hits go on the slot machine, or when he hits pull on the slot machine, it's the same thing as the woman who just won $250,000. You can win. Stake can give you $250,000 to make sure that you can become a doctor, and stake can give you $6,000 if you gamble. Anyways, so that's that. I also watched a lot of his XQC thing, which is just wild because Drake shows so much admiration for XQC. He's like, I watch you all the time, and now I'm here. That's how you know that manifestation is real. What the? I don't. Please explain to me. If you're hate watching this and you think that XQC and Adin Ross are awesome when they're gambling, what makes somebody a good online gambler? What makes somebody good? Why can you, like, what's the value in the stream? It's either you win or you don't. But I don't know. You know, I used to collect baseball cards. And so now every once in a while I watch these like unwrapping where people buy old baseball card packs and they open it up. So I understand, you know, like you're just kind of looking for a hit. It made me think about you know, a couple, like the best pull I ever had in 1986. I bought a pack of Flair basketball cards, and I pulled a Jordan rookie. Maybe it was 85. I sold that card for $200 to buy a P base in 1992. Waverly Exchange were the people who robbed me of that money. And on one hand, you could say I lost, but on the other hand, you could say I made $200. Another thing you see over here, I used to collect Pete Rose. I was a big Pete Rose collector, okay? He was my favorite baseball player, and I collected like every single Pete Rose baseball card. If you don't know who Pete Rose is, he is literally the hit king. Nobody in baseball history has more hits than Pete Rose. And where do I get to the part where he's on the Expos? That's where he was the funniest, man. When he was on the Expos, he looks so goofy. And where's the Expos card? It must be in there somewhere, right? There it is. That's my new favorite Pete Rose card. But, yeah, you know, and he got the most hits of all time. And that's pretty awesome. And I got his rookie card right here, and I was super happy with it. And then he got arrested for gambling, and he got kicked out of baseball. And in our culture, we thought it was really important. We thought it was really important that people not be allowed to bet on baseball, that we should not allow gambling into something as wonderful as our national pastime. Now, the same league that has banned Pete Rose for life from ever entering, well, he's dead now, so for death as well. By the way, he's a total piece of shit. I mean, what a terrible guy he was. A fascinating case study. I have empathy for him, despite the fact he is, on all accounts, a very unpleasant person. But, like, the same organization that kicked him out of baseball forever is sponsored by an online gambling corporation. And what more does that tell you? So I don't know. Michael Jordan, gambling addict. Pete Rose, gambling addict. Drake, gambling addict. America, gambling addict. My final word is this is what I want you to imagine. If you are a streamer, if you watch these streamers, I don't want you to see Adin Ross. I don't want you to see Drake. I want you to imagine that you are like me. The one time when I drove across country, and I think I was in Pahrump, or maybe Needles, Nevada. Is Needles the name of a town in Nevada? I think it was. I was in some like gas station where they have, you know, because in Nevada you can have like slot machines anywhere. And like you go in and there's always like some overweight person with a cigarette hanging in their mouth, just constantly going, and constantly going. So that's what I want you to see, because that's what Drake wants you to be. All right. How was this? Is it too distracting with the babies and stuff? Thank you for occupying the little one there. What are you reading some Choopy? Yep. Nice. I'm not sponsored by Triple Paste, but this is a pretty good butt paste if you have a kid. Yeah. So I should probably stop and put her to bed, yeah? Please, yeah. Okay. Well, but where's my camera on my new setup? There?